हरि हरिओम। Oh yeah, it went very well. It was nice. Actually, bro. Always happy. Yeah. I remember when the kid and put the food up on campus. Nice to have the parents automatically said you were so delighted. And their six friends was again. 130. Oh. They were like, yeah, some holy come. Yeah, they told me that I was gonna share. This is what they do. They just look at everything. Right. But then they come here, they take this, something that, okay. I think it just delayed it. And My parents moved to the States. My name wasn't. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, we're testing. No, yeah, 21. Not the 24. Supposed to be. Yeah. I tell you the I was at that. Oh, I don't remember last. No. Should we stop it? Yeah. Ajaya namaha, Om Avyayaya namaha, Om Avinashine namaha, Om Achintyaya namaha, Om Aprameyaya namaha, Om Advitiyaya namaha, Om Aniketaya namaha, Om Anushasanapriyaya namaha, Om Antasakshine namaha, Om Antaryamine namaha, Om Anandaya namaha, Om Atmaswarupaya namaha, Om Angrabhasha Viduttamaaya namaha, Om Ishwaraya namaha, Om Udara Hridayaya namaha, Om Utsahavardhakaya namaha, Om Ekasmai namaha, Om Omkaravide namaha, Om Karunasagaraaya namaha, Om Karmaparayanaaya namaha, Om Kalatitaya namaha, Om Kaivalyaswarupaya namaha, Om Pratapune namaha, Om Kritakrityaya namaha, Om Gita Jnana Yajna Pracharakaaya namaha, Om Gurave namaha, Om Gunatitaya namaha, Om Gandhkrite namaha, Om Chinmayaya namaha, Om Chinna Samshayaya namaha, Om Jagadatmane namaha, Om Jagatsakshine namaha, Om Janapriyaya namaha, Om Dipendriyaya namaha, Om Jiva Brahmekya Vide namaha, Om Jivan Muktaya namaha, Om Jirna Mandirodharaya namaha, Tapohana Sishyaya namaha, Om Tapasvite namaha, Om Tapanashidaya namaha, Om Tirtha Swarupaya namaha, Om Tejasvine namaha, Om Dehatitaya namaha, Om Guruvahitaya namaha, Om Viranishayaya namaha, Om Dharma Santhapakaya namaha, Om Dhimate namaha, Om Dhiraya namaha, Om Dhairyapradaaya namaha, Om Narayanaaya namaha, Dhananjaya namaha, Om Nirapekshaya namaha, Om Nishrubhaya namaha, Om Nirupamaya namaha, Om Nirvikalpaya namaha, Om Nityaya namaha, Om Niragajanaya namaha, Om Paramaya namaha, Om Parabrahmane namaha, Om Pavanaya namaha, Om Pavakaya namaha, Om Purushottamaya namaha, ॐ प्रसन्नात्मने नमः ॐ कलापतिदेवताय नमः ॐ मधुभक्ताय नमः ॐ मधुभक्षकाय नमः ॐ ब्रह्मनिष्ठाय नमः ॐ ब्रह्मपराय नमः ॐ कैलाशनाय नमः ॐ वादगौरवाय नमः ॐ भूवे नमः ॐ महावाक्योपदेशकाय नमः ॐ महर्षये नमः ॐ मधुरस्वभावाय नमः ॐ मनोहराय नमः ॐ आत्मने नमः ॐ मेधाविने नमः ॐ यथात्मने नमः ॐ यज्ञकृते नमः ॐ लोकप्रसिद्धाय नमः ॐ वाग्मिने नमः ॐ विभवे नमः ॐ विनोदप्रियाय नमः ॐ विनयशीलाय नमः ॐ वीतरागाय नमः ॐ वेदान्तदैत्याय नमः ॐ शान्ताय नमः ॐ शान्तिप्रदाय नमः ॐ शास्त्रोद्धारकाय नमः ॐ शुद्धसत्त्वाय नमः ॐ प्रीतिपारकाय नमः ॐ सुरप्रियाय नमः ॐ संज्ञासिने नमः ॐ सर्वबुद्धये नमः ॐ सच्चिदानन्दाय नमः ॐ सर्वजगन्नाथाय नमः ॐ सत्यकमलपाय नमः ॐ सद्दुष्टाय नमः ॐ सागरे नमः ॐ सुमनसे नमः ॐ दुर्गुवे नमः ॐ स्वयं ज्योतिषे नमः ॐ चित्रप्रज्ञाय नमः ॐ क्षमाशीलाय नमः ज्ञानमुक्तये नमः ॐ ज्ञानयोगिने नमः ॐ ज्ञानयुक्ताय नमः ॐ नित्यशुद्धबुद्धबुद्धस्वरूपाय नमः ॐ नित्यशुद्धबुद्धबुद्धस्वरूपाय नमः ॐ नित्यशुद्धबुद्धबुद्धस्वरूपाय नमः ॐ श्रीकृष्णसद्गुरवे नमः मंडलाकार
बिन्दुना Hari Om. Let's review all the verses we've chanted or learned so far in Shiva Aparadha Kshamapana Stotram from verses 1 through 6. आदौ कर्म प्रसङ्गात् कलयति कलुषं मातृकुक्षौ स्थितं मां विण्मूत्रामेध्यमध्ये क्वथयति नितरां जाठरो जातवेदाः यद्यद्वै तत्र दुःखं व्यथयति नितरां शक्यते केन वक्तुं क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो बाल्ये दुःखातिरेको मललुलितवपुः स्तन्यपाने पिपासा नो शक्तश्चेन्द्रियेभ्यो भवगुणजनिता जन्तवो मां तुदन्ति नानारोगादिदुःखाद्रुदनपरवशः शङ्करं न स्मरामि क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो प्रौढोऽहं यौवनस्थो विषयविषधरैः पञ्चभिर्मर्मसन्धौ दष्टो नष्टो विवेकः सुतधनयुवते स्वादसौख्ये निषण्णः शैवी चिन्ताविहीनं मम हृदयमहो मानगर्वाधिरूढम् क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो वार्धक्ये चेन्द्रियाणां विगतगतिमतिः चाधिदैवादितापैः पापैरोगैर्वियोगैस्त्वनवसितवपुः प्रौढिहीनं च दीनं मिथ्यामोहाभिलाषैर्भ्रमति मम मनो धूर्जटेर्ध्यानशून्यम् क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो नो शक्यं स्मार्तकर्म प्रतिपदगहन प्रत्यवायाकुलाख्यं श्रौते वार्ता कथं मे द्विजकुलविहिते ब्रह्ममार्गे सुसारे नास्था धर्मे विचारश्रवणमननयोः किं निदिध्यासितव्यम् क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो स्नात्वा प्रत्यूषकाले स्नपनविधिविधौ नाहृतं गाङ्गतोऽयं पूजार्थं वा कदाचित् बहुतरगहनात् खण्डबिल्वीदलानि नानीता पद्ममाला सरसि विकसिता गन्धपुष्पे त्वदर्थं क्षन्तव्यो मे पराध शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो. While we wait for puja to finish, we can chant one more time. It'll take another 5 minutes. If you're using this book, you can go to page 39, and then the whole stotram is there at the very back. You don't have to keep flipping. Okay. आदौ कर्म प्रसङ्गात् कलयति कलुषं मातृकुक्षौ स्थितं माम् विण्मूत्रामेध्यमध्ये क्वथयति नितरां जाठरो जातवेदाः यत् वै तत्र दुःखं क्वथयति नितरां शक्यते केन वक्तुं क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो बाल्ये दुःखातिरेको मललुलितवपुः स्तन्यपाने पिपासा नो शक्तश्चेन्द्रियेभ्यो भवगुणजनिता जन्तवो मां तुदन्ति नानारोगादिदुःखाद्रुदनपरवशः शङ्करं न स्मरामि क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो प्रौढोऽहं यौवनस्थो विषयविषधरैः पञ्चभिर्मर्मसन्धौ दष्टो नष्टो विवेकः सुतधनयुवते स्वादसौख्ये निषण्णः शैवी चिन्ताविहीनं मम हृदयमहो मानगर्वाधिरूढं क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो वार्धक्ये चेन्द्रियाणां विगतगतिमतिः चाधिदैवादितापैः पापैरोगैर्वियोगैस्त्वनवसितवपुः प्रौढिहीनं च दीनं मिथ्यामोहाभिलाषैर्भ्रमति मम मनो धूर्जटेर्ध्यानशून्यम् क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो नो शक्यं स्मार्तकर्म प्रतिपदगहन प्रत्यवायाकुलाख्यम् श्रौते वार्ता कथं मे द्विजकुलविहिते ब्रह्ममार्गे सुसारे नास्था धर्मे विचारश्रवणमननयोः किं निदिध्यासितव्यम् क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो स्नात्वा प्रत्यूषकाले स्नपनविधिविधौ नाहृतं गाङ्गतोऽयम् पूजार्थं वा कदाचित् बहुतरगहनात् खण्डबिल्वीदलानि नानीता पद्ममाला सरसि विकसिता गन्धपुष्पे त्वदर्थं क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो Let us begin. ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम् भवानी शङ्करौ वन्दे श्रद्धा विश्वासरूपिणौ याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धाः स्वान्तस्थमीश्वरम्। हरि ओम्. It's a joy to do this every week. I'm excited. Today's going to be a fun class. Last week, we saw that there was a turn in this stotram. After 4 verses of explaining how in my whole life I have not remembered Bhagavan enough. And my whole life, meaning all of my lives, including all of the infinite ones of the past. Now comes, from verse 5 and 6, a discussion of all the sadhanas that I have not taken up. All the different sadhanas. In verse 5, there was a view of the entire spiritual path, starting from our smarta karma, our good conduct, as given to us by our ancestors and by the learned ones, Shrauta karma, doing whatever is ordained by our Shruti, our Veda. And then as we mature in our dharma, I also did not engage in Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. These definitions we discussed last week, so I won't go in depth again. Then in verse 6, we saw Bhagwan Bhashyakar looks very closely at puja. He says, Bhagwan, I did not engage in your physical worship in any way. I did not bring for you anything of this world that you have made. I have not taken that and offered that back to you as a token of my love. And at the end of last class, we discussed the importance of physical puja and the need to contemplate on whether we are doing physical worship of Bhagavan, even if it is for 5 minutes a day. Are we engaging in seeing divinity in a physical place? When we see divinity in that physical place, then, like I said last week, it's like divinity leaks out of that physical murti and begins to pervade the whole world. So puja is a way for us to train our divine eye to see Bhagavan as a person, as our well-wisher, as our beloved, so that we can see him everywhere. It's hard at first, to see, okay, Bhagavan, you are space. Cool, great. Why are you space? That's so subtle. You are air. Okay, you are time. Okay, you are the ruler of infinite universes. Our mind is not yet tuned to that sort of subtle thinking. Puja is like that frequency on that radio, which helps us tune to Bhagwan's higher truths. So this is the rahasya, the importance of puja. Now we'll go to verse 7. Verse 7 also is about puja. You can see in this very short stotram, 2 verses are about puja. There's something to be noticed in that. Repetition is not done lightly in Sanskrit or in any sort of composition. So we should take seriously this message. But how is this verse different from the 6th verse? Here, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji is describing the Shodashopachar Puja, the 16-step puja, the 16 ways that we honor an honored guest, our loved ones. And honestly, these 16 things we do for ourselves also. We like this for us. So for somebody that we love, Bhagavan, every day, or whenever we have an occasion, if we invite Bhagavan as a beloved guest, an honored guest, we honor him, worship him in these 16 ways that are pointed out in this verse. So let's chant. Dugdhair madhvajyayuktaihi Dugdhair Dadhisita sahitaihi Snapitam naiva lingam Dugdhairmadhvajyayuktaihi Dadhisita-sahitaihi Snapitam naiva lingam दुग्धैर्मध्वाज्ययुक्तैः सहितैः स्नापितं नैव लिङ्गं नो लिप्तं चन्दनाद्यैः नो लिप्तं कनकविरचितैः पूजितं न प्रसूनैः नो लिप्तं चन्दनाद्यैः कनकविरचितैः पूजितं न प्रसूनैः नो लिप्तं चन्दनाद्यैः कनकविरचितैः पूजितं न प्रसूनैः धूपैः कर्पूरदीपैः विविधरसयुतैः नैव भक्ष्योपहारैः धूपैः कर्पूरदीपैर्विविधरसयुतैः नैव भक्ष्योपहारैः धूपैः कर्पूरदीपैर्विविधरसयुतैः नैव भक्ष्योपहारैः क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो Together. दुग्धैर्मध्वाज्ययुक्तैर्दधिसितसहितैः स्नापितं नैव लिङ्गं नो लिप्तं चन्दनाद्यैः कनकविरचितैः पूजितं न प्रसूनैः धूपैः कर्पूरदीपैर्विविधरसयुतैः नैव भक्ष्योपहारैः क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो The central meaning of this verse, Guruji had given in his talks, which just summarizes the whole essence of this verse, which is Tvadiyam vastu govinda tubhyameva samarpaye. Your thing, your object, Bhagavan, that you have given me, that you have created, that actually belongs to you, I'm giving back to you. All of these things that we see in puja, like we saw last week, these are things that nourish us, that we love, that add benefit to our life. And because we are grateful for Bhagavan for giving it to us, we offer it back to him. Whether in large amounts or in a very small amount, it doesn't matter. But with love and with gratitude, we give it back to Bhagavan. So what are those things? So here we see aihi over and over and over. This is bahuvachana tritiya with these things, many, this is instrumental. With all of these many things, I am worshiping you. And the main verbal component is na snapitam, I have not bathed you, na liptam, I have not enveloped you, rubbed you, liptam, na pujitam, I have not worshipped you. So this is the verbal thing. You may not know what is going on in this verse. It's confusing. So those show what all types of puja I have not done for Bhagavan. And then the aihi, that portion, those are all the materials that we use. So now when we go word by word, it'll make sense. So dugdhaihi, with milk, which is madhu ajya yuktaihi, which is mixed with honey and ghee. Dadhi sita sahitaihi, along with yogurt and sugar. This is panchamrit. So all of these 5 amrits, these 5 very beneficial materials for us, we mix together. That is called panchamrit, and it is a special way to worship Bhagavan. So with all of these materials, naiva snapitam lingam, I have not bathed your lingamurti. I have not done your abhishek. And Bhagwan is Abhishek Priya. Even with just a little bit of water, he's happy, but he's very happy even with Panchamrit. So, Bhagwan, I'm sorry, I didn't do that for you. No liptam. I have not covered you with what chandanadhyaihi, with chandana, kumkuma, vibhuti, all of these things that one makes liquid and rubs, that's liptam. So I've not decorated you with these things that I love. I put chandan on me every day, but I didn't offer to you. Kanaka virachitaihi, nor with any golden ornaments, abhushan. Na pujitam prasunaihi, nor did I worship you with flowers. Then na pujitam also goes to the next line. I did not also worship you dhupaihi, with incense, karpura deepaihi, with the karpura arti, vividha rasayutaihi bhakshopaharaihi na eva, nor also with many different kinds of foods with many different kinds of tastes. I didn't make a variety of dishes for you and I didn't feed you. Na pujitam, I did not feed you with that naivedya. We can see this is something we will do for anybody who comes home. We will give them something they like to eat. We will give them a place to bathe. We will give them a seat. Once Swamiji had said, how do you, when you do Ashtottara, you're telling the names of Bhagavan. That Ashtottara is like when you sit down with your old friend and you remember when you did that, remember when you did that, you're remembering, you're reminiscing. So that Ashtottara is like the reminiscing of Bhagavan's different forms and leelas and attributes. Like this verse serves to show us how to treat Bhagwan like someone important in our life. That Bhagwan is actually the most important. Again, he has given us all of these things. He doesn't need flowers. He doesn't need panchamrit, but we need to give it to him. Again, out of gratitude, out of love. Because we've covered the puja verse last week, I won't elaborate more on the importance of puja. But there's just one thing that I wanted to mention. Again, Guruji mentioned it in his talks, is there's a lot of talk nowadays. I don't know if it's still a thing. It was when I was younger, about dravya wastage. We waste when we do puja, so many gallons of milk and water. Why don't you feed the poor? Guruji had 2 points to respond to this. He said, one, waste is everywhere. Are those people who are complaining about puja, are they complaining about the pounds and pounds of food that grocery stores throw out every day? No, they're not doing that. And they're also not doing anything to solve that problem. They only have a problem with puja. So it's just loose talk and loose criticism. And the second thing is, how much am I individually doing to alleviate this problem? Okay, if I'm so concerned about hunger and all world hunger and food wastage, am I actually every day doing something to alleviate that? Before I criticize somebody else's habits or rituals, I should first see if I'm solving the problem. This is how we should respond to such criticisms, because they do happen, especially when we do Rudrabhishek. Oh, people go crazy. They don't like it. So we should know what to say. Such criticisms don't hold much water, and at the end of the day, we have to do what is right. And we also will continue to serve the world by feeding and all of that. That's not a problem. Another thing Swami Swarupananji says is, that dravya, that prasad at the end, that milk, we can also distribute. He said it's very healing, it's very sacred, we all can drink it. It's not really meant to be wasted. We can distribute it. So it is up to us also to do that. That is all for this verse, because we saw the Mahatva of Puja last week. We can reflect similarly as we did last week on this verse. So we'll move on now to verse 8. Now we are coming to a variety of others. So we saw the puja sadhana. Now we're going to see Bhagwan packs many different. He packs 7 sadhanas into one verse. And the point being to show that everybody has a different temperament. And we have to pick the sadhana that calls out most to us and really dedicate time to that. So we will see what all those sadhanas are as we go through the verse word by word. Dhyatva chitte shivakyam prachurataradhanam नैव दत्तं द्विजेभ्यः ध्यात्वा चित्ते शिवाख्यं प्रचुरतरधनं नैव दत्तं द्विजेभ्यः चित्ते शिवाख्यं प्रचुरतरधनं नैव दत्तं द्विजेभ्यः हव्यं ते लक्षसङ्ख्यैः हुतवः वदने नार्पितं बीजमन्त्रैः नोतप्तं गाङ्गतीरे नोतप्तं गाङ्गतीरे व्रतजपनियमैः रुद्रजाप्यैर्न वेदैः क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो Together. ध्यात्वा चित्ते शिवाख्यं प्रचुरतरधनं नैव दत्तं द्विजेभ्यः हव्यं ते लक्षसङ्ख्यैर्हुतवः वदने नार्पितं बीजमन्त्रैः नोतप्तं गाङ्गतीरे व्रतजपनियमैः रुद्रजाप्यैर्न वेदैः क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो. Here, the 7 sadhanas pointed out are pointed out by the words dhyatva, contemplated, dattam, given, or danam, arpitam, referring to havan, taptam, referring to tapas, vrata, japa, niyama are the 3 others. You can see it as the niyama, the rules of vrata, fasting, and japa, taking Bhagwan's name, or you can see it as vrata, fasting, japa, doing japa, and other niyamas that you may so choose. So these are the sadhanas pointed out. So let's go word by word. Bhagwan, these are more things I have not done. Remember, this is the central theme of these verses. All of these sadhanas, I may know about them, but I haven't given time to them. What is that? Dhyatva chitte shivakyam. In my mind, chitte, I have not meditated on, or I have not contemplated on Shivakyam, that whose name is Lord Shiva. This is specifically referring to before any sort of ritual. We will do a dhyana shloka, we will imagine Bhagwan. So my mind, Bhagwan, has never held your form like that, or it hasn't done that enough. I've not meditated on you, contemplated on you before doing some sort of worship. Prachudra tara dhanam na eva dattam dvijebhyah. Nor have I given to dvijas. 2 verses ago, we saw the meaning of dvija, to brahmanas or to noble people, learned people. To such people, I have not given prachura tara dhanam, lots of wealth. I have not done dana to good people and to good causes. Na arpitam, nor have I offered havyam, oblations. To whom? To huta vaha vadane. Nor have I offered any oblations to fire. Huta vaha means fire. Huta is oblation. Vaha is carrying. So the one who carries all the oblations to all the devatas is huta vaha, or Agni Devata. Vadane means in the mouth, in the face. So when we offer in the Agni during a Havan, so in the mouth of Agni Devata, we will give the Ahuti, and he will take to whichever Devata, whichever Bhagwan we offer to. So in that Agni, I have not offered any Havyam, any sort of Ahuti for you. And how should I do that? Lakshya Sankhyahi. In the hundreds of thousands, I have not done that. I have not done that a lot. And Bija Mantraihi, in the proper way, with the Bija Mantras or with Om Namah Shivaya, along with that mantra, I have not offered to you enough ahuti. I have not done your formal ritualistic worship either. No taptam Ganga tire, nor on the banks of the Gangas have I done any tapas. Have I done any sort of austerity? I'm so indulgent, no austerity in my life. Nor have I done vrata, japa, niyama with the rules of fasting or japa. I will do a certain amount of malas, or I will do this certain amount of fasting. I have not worshipped you. Nor with Rudra Japyaihi Vedaihi, nor with the repetition of the Rudra Sukta from the Veda or any other Vedic mantra. I have not done Parayan of that. I have not done repetition of that to worship you. So here we can see so many ways we can worship Bhagavan. All these avenues we had, and we never took it up. We have all different personalities, and each of us, even as we were reading this verse, you will notice in your mind, oh, I like that, or oh, I could have done that, or I did that once and I liked it. Why haven't we done it again? That's the question. About each of these things, I'll say a little something, because some of these things are thought of in a traditional way, but they have broader definitions. For example, Danam. Here, Dattam, it says Prachuratara Dhanam. Of course, if we have the means, we should give. And we should give to the correct patra, the correct recipient, to noble people, to noble causes. But Danam is not just of money. Danam is of anything that I have. If I have a talent, it should be offered to Bhagavan. It should be offered to a good cause. If I have nothing, I can give my good attitude, my energy, and my smile to people. If nothing else, I can do that also. That also is dhanam. But the important thing is, dvijebhya, we should know that we are doing it for the right cause, for the right reason, to the worthy recipient. We should give it. That's about dhanam. Then havyam, when we do havan or yajna, one is the traditional havan or yajna. But there's something also what Gurudev calls yajna spirit. When we all come together in a spirit of mutual cooperation and work together, that also is a sort of yajna. Are we working together? Because what would happen is, in those days when there was a yajna, it was a way of binding the whole community. There would be people who made the bricks. There would be people who had the cows from which you would get the milk. There would be people who would make vessels. There would be people who would bring flowers. There would be the purohits. There would be people who would clean. All sorts of people were there. Everybody in society had a role. And it was a way to bring everybody together. In that same vein, whenever we do some work, if we have that idea that we are all coming together for the worship of a higher power or for the higher cause, if we work in that communal spirit, that is called the yajna spirit. So we should understand that also to be worship of Bhagavan. Then tapas. Ganga tire tapas. Okay, someone's thinking I have to stand on one leg and not breathe and not eat. Not necessarily. There's a great line from Mahabharata. I'm sure you all would have heard. Manasascha indriyanam aikagryam paramam tapaha. The alignment of the mind and the senses, to make the mind and the senses aikagryam, to make them ekagra, to make them single-pointed, that is the highest tapas. So this is something that can be done everywhere, not just Ganga tire. If my mind is where my hands are, then I'm doing tapas. That also is tapas. And then vrata japa niyamaihi. Here I wanted to emphasize on japa. Because japa, yajnanam japa yajñosmi, says Bhagavan in the 10th chapter. Of all yajñas, I am japa yajna. I am the yajna of taking the name repeatedly. My name, the name of the Lord. So sometimes we think, we hear that in this Kalikal, in this terrible time, Bhagwan's name is the one sadhana that will free us. We keep hearing that. And we think, okay, for us little people, this is the little sadhana we should do. And somehow in our minds, we think, Nama Jap, we don't know its mahima. Actually, it's the opposite. For such a terrible time like Kalikal, Bhagavan Nama Japa is the highest sadhana. It is the most powerful sadhana that was there in all four yugas, and it's the only one that survived. That's how powerful it is. And to illustrate the mahima of Nama Japa, I wanted to tell you a story of Swami Akarnanandji Maharaj. Akarnanandji Maharaj was a great saint in recent times. His samadhi happened just in the 1980s. He was a saint of Vrindavan. Hariam, no talking during class, please. I'm sorry. Akarnanandji Maharaj, he's a great saint of Vrindavan. And he had sakshat darshan of Bhagwan Shri Krishna only by doing Nam Jap. And that too, not some fancy mantra. He just did Krishna Krishna Nam Jap. The story of that I'll tell you in the next verse, but there's another story told by his very close sevak, Swami Govindanandji, in his book of Samsmaran about Swami Akarnanandji Maharaj, that once he was serving Maharajji. Maharajji was asleep in the room outside, and Swami Govindanandji was awake in the next room. And he heard some noise in the room that Maharajji was sleeping. Alarmed, he got up and he just looked inside, but nobody else was there. Only Maharajji. And the sound was coming close to his bed. So he came very close to the bed and he heard from Maharajji's body emanating the sound Krishna, 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 Krishna. His body was vibrating with that name. That is Nama Japa Siddhi. That every particle in Maharajji's body was Krishna Maya. Even when he was sleeping, he himself was Krishna Maya. That is Nama Jap. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm doing one mala a day. What's happening? Nothing's happening. No, continue. That one mala a day will increase by itself. And as it increases and increases, it results in this pervasion of the whole world with Bhagavan Nama. It's a very, 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 very powerful sadhana. In the next verse, we will see more about Akarnanandji Maharaj. But for now, I'll just emphasize this about Namajap. It is the most powerful sadhana for us now. So from this verse, we can actually see two things. One is that, based on my temperament and my interests, I can pick a sadhana that suits me. That's one point. I said that in the beginning. But the second point is that, every second of our day can be turned into sadhana. If you look at all of these things that I described, everything we do at all times in one way or another can be turned into sadhana. If I'm eating, that can be thought of as yajna. If I'm working, I can turn that into tapas. If I'm talking to somebody and I'm giving them a compassionate ear, that can be danam. Like this, and if nothing else is there, take Bhagwan's name. Fill all that time with Bhagwan's name. Like this, we can almost, the game Tetris, where you try to fill all the empty spaces? We should Tetris our life with sadhanas of all these different kinds. And when we start to do this more and more, it almost becomes like a fun game. Okay, Bhagwan, how will I spend time with you today? What creative thing can we do today together? How can I do some seva of yours in a new way today? And when we see how rich this verse is, we see that, sadhana is so exciting. It's like a new frontier. When we start sadhana, in the beginning, it's maybe a slog, or it's maybe done out of obligation, or we're trying to tick a box or something. But as we progress, it's exciting. It's gratifying. We discover new things. It is said that which is beautiful is that which is newly beautiful in every moment. And that is sadhana. Sadhana is newly beautiful in every moment as it matures and it develops. So this richness of this verse, I just wanted to bring to attention. There's so many ways we can worship Bhagwan, and it's a joy that he gives us so many ways to worship him. So the reflection in this verse is, for number 8, is, have I found the sadhana for me? Have I found that sadhana, and am I pursuing it? Have I found that sadhana for me, and am I pursuing it? That is for verse number 8. Now, let's go to verse number 9. Verse number 9 talks about Yoga Marg. So we've talked about Sadharan Puja. We've talked about all of these different sadhanas. Now another path of sadhana is Yoga Marg. To use, sometimes also called Hatha Yoga, to use control or strict discipline on our body, prana, senses, and mind, place them in specific parts of our body and energy channels to achieve spiritual evolution. Before we get into this verse, in short, I will tell you the 8 steps Ashtanga Yoga. I will tell you. I won't go into detail because this is a vast topic, but this will help you understand this verse when we read it. Otherwise, it's a little incomprehensible. So the first 2 steps you would have known is yama and niyama. In short, our do's and don'ts. We should have vyavahara shuddhi. Our behavior, our mind, everything should be absolutely pure. Do's and don'ts. Then asana, which is the arrangement of the body in various positions. Then pranayama, which through inhalation, exhalation, and holding the breath is the control of the pranas throughout the whole body. Then pratyahara, which after we have situated the body and the pranas, now we go subtler to the level of the senses and the mind. And pratyahara is to withdraw the senses and the mind from the external world of objects. After we do that, then the mind has to do something, which is dharana. We then tie the mind to a specific idea. In the Yoga Marg, they will say to put the mind in a specific place, like some sort of chakra with that prana shakti, any of the chakras, and then putting it in different chakras will get you different siddhis and whatnot. Not our area of interest, but that's how it works. Then after dharana, so dharana is with effort. When we put our mind in a particular sthana, some particular place, that is dharana. When that placement of the mind becomes sahaja, becomes effortless, that is dhyana. So the mind is saying, if I am placing the mind in Agnya Chakra, it is just staying there. I don't have to do anything. By itself, it is absorbed in that place. Then, when I am absorbed into the object of my meditation, after dhyana comes samadhi, total absorption. This is the Yoga Marg. So here, there's a description of how the yogi brings the Kundalini Shakti with the pranas. There's a unique Shakti in our body called Kundalini Shakti. As Guruji says, I don't know how it's done. It's done in some way, but with the pranayama, with that control, that Kundalini Shakti is brought to the Sahasrara, the top of the crown of the head. And there one experiences this very high spiritual experience, which is described in this verse. Is it clear to everybody? Yes. So this verse is just describing the movement of that Kundalini Shakti along with pranayama up to the top of the head. That is what is described. Okay, good. Let's chant the verse now. Sthitva sthane saroje pranavamaya marut kundale sukshma marge Pranavamaya marut kundale sukshma marge Shante swante praline Prakatita vibhave Jyotirupe parakhe Lingajne brahmavakye Sakalatanugatam Shankaram nasmarami Shantavyo me paradha Shiva 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 Bho Shri Mahadeva Shambho. Together. स्थित्वा स्थाने सरोजे प्रणवमयमरुत् कुण्डले सूक्ष्ममार्गे शान्ते स्वान्ते प्रलीने प्रकटितविभवे ज्योतिरूपे पराख्ये लिङ्गज्ञे ब्रह्मवाक्ये सकलतनुगतं शङ्करं न स्मरामि क्षन्तव्यो मे पराधः शिव 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 भोः श्रीमहादेव शम्भो. So Bhagwan, please forgive me. Through the Yoga Marga also, I did not have your experience. I did not remember you. So the main sentence here is Sthitva sthane Shankaram nasmarami. First pada 2 words, and then third pada last 3 words. So having stayed in one isolated place, Sthitva sthane Shankaram nasmarami. I did not remember you, Bhagavan. Now, how through the Yoga Marg do I remember you? Saroje, in that Sahasra Dala Kamala, in that 1,000-petaled lotus at the crown of the head, Pranava Maya Marut Kundale, that Pranava Maya Marut, that Pranava Maya, that Onkara Maya Vayu, Prana Vayu, Marut means Vayu, here indicating the pranas, that Prana Shakti, I did not take Kundale Sukshma Marge. Through that Sushumna Nadi, through that subtle path to the top of my head, I did not take that Kundali Shakti. Then what happens when it reaches there, when the Kundali Shakti accumulates there at the crown of the head? Shante Swante Praline. In that peaceful abode, Swante, in my own self, Praline, being dissolved in that, Prakatita Vibhave, in that manifestation of spiritual glory, Jyoti Rupe, which is effulgent, not like a literal Jyoti, but that effulgent self, Parakhe, in that Parabrahman. In that Parabrahman, which is Lingagne, that is beyond any literal word. It must be Linga, it must be only indicated. Brahmavakya, which is spoken of by the word Brahman. In that experience of the self, Shankaram Nasmarami. I did not remember you. And what kind of Shankaram now are we talking about? Sakala Tanugatam. That is pervading all bodies. That is all pervasive. That Parabrahma Swarupa. I did not experience that through the Yoga Marg. Is this clear? Should I go through it again? No, it seems clear. Good. Great. Now the question is, when are we going to do this, practically speaking? Because to follow the Yoga Marg, you need the practical guidance, the guidance, strict guidance of an experienced yogi. Without that, it's very difficult. Actually, it's impossible. And anyways, in our Chinmay mission, our path is through Vedanta Vichar. So the thing to understand here is, though we are not actually restraining the pranas and dragging the pranas up the Sushumna Nadi, up to the crown of the head, though we are not doing that consciously, Vedanta accepts the sadhana paddhati, the order of the sadhanas, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, in our shravana, manana, nididhyasana. In our meditation, we accept these ideas that it happens in this order. But we will just change a few things. So how will it be? Let's say we're sitting for meditation. Already we have done yama niyama. Okay, that's our sadhana chatushtaya. We have, we are following dharma. We are good people. Our minds are pure. Yama niyama, done. What is asana for us? The importance of asana is that do I have asana siddhi? Can I sit in a place for 1 hour minimum without moving? They say actually 3 hours, but let's say 1 hour without moving. Without being aware of the body. Like Gurudev says in Meditation in Life, we should be able to hang the body like a coat on a coat rack and move away. We should forget that we have a body. It should just stay where we left it. That's asana. Then pranayam, Pranayam, really, there's a simple pranayam that we all can do, which is pranavikshana, observing the breath. It's considered the king of all pranayams, actually. Pranayam, that much only to calm the mind. Then, of course, pratyahara is the same. We withdraw the mind. But the difference really starts in Vedanta Vichara on dharana. In the dharana step, rather than focusing on a particular chakra or a particular part of our physiology, we will tie the mind to the idea that I am Brahman. Or I will tie the mind to the form of my Ishta Devata. So I'll tie the mind, I will focus the mind on Aham Brahmasmi, or on my Ishta mantra, or on my Ishta Bhagavan Swarupa, that form. That's where I will tie the mind. Then when I'm focusing, I'm trying very hard, that's dharana. Then we hit a point where that's effortless. When it becomes effortless, that's dhyana or nididhyasana. That's meditation. And when we are so absorbed in that meditation, I fall away, the meditation falls away, and only the object of my meditation, meaning Brahman or Ishvara or the self, when only that remains and I'm absorbed in that which I'm meditating upon, that is samadhi. So you can see how all the steps are maintained. We accept their order of sadhana. We accept the theory. We use that. But we will just substitute Vedanta Vichar for each of these steps. There's lots to be said about other darshanas and what Vedanta accepts from each of them, but I'm not taking that here. That we won't end for another 2 hours. But we can just understand that from the Yoga Marga, we take these steps. And this is how we withdraw the mind and apply it in our Shravan Manan Nididhyasan. And this is how we progress. So I said we would go back to Akhandananji Maharaj. There's a great book. It's called Krishna Krishna Ke Uchcharan Se Krishna Prapti, written by Akhandananji Maharaj. And it describes this exact process about how through Nama Jap, one can progress all the way up to Samadhi. How that Jap turns into Dhyana and then turns into absorption. And in this describes Akhandananji Maharaj, his Sakshat Darshan of Bhagavan, how it happened. So what happened one day is this. Akhandananji Maharaj at Brahma Muhurt was awake in his kutia, and he was trying to get through his sankhya, his number of jap. He had a certain niyama, and he said, I have to get through it. So he was doing his jap. Then suddenly a voice said, why are you hurrying with your jap? Are you just trying to get through the number? And he opened his eyes, and there was he calls him Paramahamsaji. There was a sadhu Mahatma in front of him. Tejasvi. He was from Nepal. Very fair, very strong, very tall, full of that ojas in his face. He'd come into Akhandananji Maharaj's kutia. Immediately, Akhandananji Maharaj gets off of his seat and seats the Paramahamsaji there and does pranam. And he said, the Paramahamsaji said, it's good. I come to see what people do as soon as they wake up. It tells me what sort of mind they have. And the fact that you have gotten up at this hour and immediately your mind has turned to Bhagavan, it says a lot. So very well done. But there's still something to learn. Akhandananji Maharaj is listening. What is there to learn? And this Paramahamsaji describes exactly this, that how the steps of asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, up till samadhi, how that can be achieved through namajap. So what does he say? He says, when we do jap, we will sit and we lock the body into place. That's your asana. It's done. We don't move after that. That's asana. Then, rather than just saying the mantra over and over, he said, time the mantra to the breath. In one breath, out one breath, only one mantra. In one swara. He says what happens with that is that the vak indriya, which right now is holding all the karmendriyas, gets dissolved into the pranas because it's connected to the breath. So all the karmendriyas, all of your organs of action are dissolved into your prana. That's step 2. That is our pranayama. So pranayama is taken care of. Then what about pratyahara? I think this is most beautiful. He says that when we take Bhagwan's name, we should do rasa swadan of the name. We should taste the sweetness of Bhagwan's name. We have a rasanendriya, that faculty of taste. Bring all of the senses only to that faculty of taste. And as we say Bhagwan's name slowly, timed with the breath, we extract the sweetness. We taste the sweetness of Bhagwan's name. And all of our organs of knowledge, our jnanendriyas, are dissolved into the mind. That is our pratyahara. All the senses are withdrawn. So we have done what? Asana, pranayama, pratyahara. What's happening? Only japa. Only japa is happening. Then he says, now when the prana and the mind, they have to now come together. How will they come together? The object of our mantra jap is our ishta, our beloved, our favorite form of Bhagavan. That is the object of our japa. So the mind now has to do chintan, has to remember, has to focus on that form, the nature of that Ishvara, of that Bhagavan. In that, the prana and the man become ekagra. The mind and the prana become one. That becomes, and he says that itself, when the prana and the mind are one, remember the prana brings the Shakti upwards, right? He said that itself, you don't have to do anything else. When the prana and the mind become one, that is the movement through the Sushumna, he says in this book. That becomes our dharana. And when it becomes sahaj, it becomes dhyana. And then when only that nama jap is left, only when that nama is left, when the person is not there, nobody is there, only the object of my japa is left, that is samadhi. That is what the Paramahamsji taught Akhandanandji Maharaj. And then the most wonderful part of this book is Maharajji describes how he progressed. At first, it took him effort. Then he said, I would bring my mind back. And then he said, suddenly, everywhere I was hearing Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. He said, from everywhere I could hear it. He said, I was in an inner place. And that became more real to me than what was outside. There's a very long description, and I'm going to cut it short, because then he describes his darshan of Bhagavan. Because at the end, we may think, okay, then what are we supposed to do? Do we focus on the self? Do we focus on Ishvara? Are they the same thing? What is going on? Like, this sounds like two different things, right? Well, let me describe how the darshan of Bhagavan happened. So Bhagavan, Maharajji says that first he would get glimpses of Bhagavan. He would see his hands, sometimes his flute, sometimes his mala, sometimes his hair, and just for an instant. And he said, that gap between these visions, he said it felt like yuga yuga. It was like ages and ages of gap. He couldn't bear it. Then one time, as he sat down in the forest to do his jap, suddenly everything around him disappeared. And there was this jyoti all around him. He was sitting, and there was this light all around him. And in front of him dances a very fair-looking boy, very fair-skinned. And he's dressed in flowers, only flower abhushan. And he has a murali. And he's jumping, dancing all around him. Sometimes he'll touch Maharajji, sometimes he'll run away. And he's tumuk tumukke, he's like, how do you say, he's swaying back and forth. And Maharajji says he cannot move. And a thought comes to him. He says, I know this is my Bhagavan, but why is he fair? Isn't he Shamala? Isn't he supposed to be dark? Why is he so fair? And as he's itching to touch Bhagavan, to touch his feet, to come near him, but he cannot move. He's frozen in place. He cannot even close his eyelids. Then Bhagavan comes close to his ear and he says something most beautiful. I've translated it into English because it's in Hindi for everybody's convenience, but it's a very crude translation. Forgive me, Bhagavan. Bhagavan says this. Bhagavan says, I am both fair and I am dark. Don't you know that I always contemplate on my beloved Radharani, my beloved? You only want to touch me now in this form. But this whole universe that you are in, that you see, that is my Leela Bhumi, the sacred space of my divine sport. My Rasa Leela is happening in its every atom. And this world is but the form of me and my beloved. You see it as gross, subtle, and causal. That is the fault of your vision. Why do you confuse east for west? Why do you confuse me to be this world? All this is my play in the form of pairs, Yugala Swarupa. Whatever people of the world consider noble or depraved, inside that, inside its most secret place where their eyes cannot reach, there my beginningless and endless, blissful, honeyed, lasyamai, full of dance, ekarasa, homogeneous Ras Leela is happening. So beautiful. And after this, Maharaji had that darshan, that from each kana around him, this Ras Leela is happening. Now tell me, is this Advaita Drishti or Dvaita Drishti? This is Advaita Drishti. It doesn't matter if we focus on Aham Brahmasmi or we focus on our Ishtamurti, because Ishvara is also Brahman and I am also Brahman. We reach the same place. The point is that only Bhagavan was there. Akhandananji Maharaj was also not there. He would say, from my room, I could hear Krishna, Krishna. Who am I? I am also pervaded by him. So when we see this verse, we should see that whether I am absorbing myself in that Brahman through Vedanta Vichar, or I am absorbing myself in that Ishvara through Bhagavad Bhakti, the result is the same. The result is the same. Because Ishvara is Brahman, I am Brahman, there is only Brahman. And the question we have to ask is, have I turned inwards to do that? We may not know how to corral our prana shakti upwards through the sushumna. We may not know. But we know in love how to absorb our mind in Bhagavan. We know how, through inquiry, to go to our innermost self. What we should contemplate is, have I done that work to turn inwards? And may Bhagavan bless us that we have this sort of vision. My pranams to Akhandananji Maharaj for such a beautiful vision and his karuna and his kripa to share this with us. It is most instructive and most beautiful and most inspiring. There's so much we can talk and say and think about this little book, but most importantly, it's something we have to do. It's something we have to see. It's possible. We all can do it. And we all deserve to do it. That's actually who we really are. So with this verse, let us close with this idea of how do we turn inwards to see that infinite Lord. And Bhagavan, forgive me that I have not done it yet, but give me the strength that I may do it, and may I do it soon. This is enough for these two verses. We will continue next time with verse 10. Again, the mananam for the previous verse, verse 8 is, have I found my sadhana and am I pursuing it? And the mananam for verse 9 is, have I turned within? Let's conclude. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Just a couple of announcements. Next week, for 4th of July, anticipating that many of us will not be here, there will be a break in our class. We will continue the week after. And the second announcement is that these talks are now being published on YouTube. So if you missed a week or you want to go back and listen, they're available at your convenience. Third announcement, actually. I think I noticed that the old version does not have verses 8 and 9. Yeah, I didn't realize that. So if you would like to pick this one up, it has it. Otherwise, you can insert from Book of Hymns also. It doesn't have Gurudev's commentary for whatever reason. So it doesn't even have a word by word translation, which I gave today. But you can, I don't have a way of communicating to everybody, but you yourself can find the book and get it from the book. Thank you. Hari Om.